So, David here. This is Thursday, our weekly Insiders Club Mastermind meeting, which nobody else in the world gives you a weekly mastermind meeting. So, congratulations on that. You're part of the cool club. We have some new people in here, Jen. I think we do. Let's see. I'm scrolling.
I don't think so. Not today.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Then we just will move right on. So we have a lot to talk about today. This is Outsourcing Challenge Month, and one of the things that without outsourcing, our business would not have grown to anything to speak of. So we're pretty excited to talk about this to make sure that you understand exactly what outsourcing is. Now, I found out, and got a bunch of support tickets that when we started the challenge this month, when we had recorded an interview with
Travis.
Yeah, Travis. What's Travis's
Greenlee.
last name? Greenlee. Yeah, thank you. When we recorded an interview with Travis for the company named Profit Groove, Profit Groove no longer exists. And so did a little investigation, and what we found out from Profit Groove, or what we found out from Travis, is that Travis had the nightmare outsourcing thing happen to his company. The people, and this happened to me, by the way, when I had a stock photography agency, and I'll tell you what, it wasn't really outsourcing, it was insourcing that it turned into the same kind of nightmare. I had somebody working for me in my stock photography company who was the primary salesperson. And she was working on straight commission. No, that's not true. A commission plus retainer each week. And she was pretty good at what she did. She was one of those people that loved cold calling. I never could understand it. She loved cold calling. And she said, out of 10 people, I'll get 3 that are interested in what we're doing. So she said, I just can't wait to get through those 7 to get to the 3. And I said, I can't stand the 7. The 7, that's just massive rejection to me. Right? And so anyway, she called me one afternoon and she said, by the way, I'm leaving today. I was at home working that day, and I said, what? This was 1993, maybe. And she said, yeah, I'm leaving today. I've decided I'm going to quit. Well, what she decided to do was start a competing business with me, and she walked out with half of my photographers. I had 150 photographers, and she walked out with half of my photographers, and she'd already packaged up their images and slides and was taking it away. So I really had to scramble. I lost part of my business that way. Same thing happened to Travis Greenlee at Profit Groove. Now, he had a project manager that was managing his entire thing, had access to his American Express and the whole deal in India.
Oops.
You muted me?
I muted you. Sorry. You're back.
Didn't like that story, huh?
Sorry.
So the person that was the project manager for his entire team broke off, took the team with them, and charged all of their stuff, ran up huge bills on his American Express. It just was incredibly unethical, immoral, all that kind of stuff about it. But Travis made a couple of mistakes, and we're going to talk about this because I've talked to Travis about it some too. The first thing he did was single point of failure, right? So if you follow Coca-Cola or any big companies like this, there's never one person that can bring your business down. There's never one contractor that can bring your business down. You guys know that I was a consultant with AT&T for a long time, and there were more Accenture consultants at AT&T than there were employees. And AT&T was vulnerable. It could have hurt them badly if Accenture went out of business or decided they wanted to all go work for Verizon instead, and do whatever they wanted to do. But the reason there were more contractors of Accenture is Accenture was their biggest consulting company, but probably only a third of their consultants were from Accenture, so they were still covered and could recover. Coca-Cola has this formula that never gets shared. Nobody knows what it is. It's never in one location. There are multiple people with multiple pieces of that formula. So nobody can take the formula and get it out in the world. Travis, on the other hand, he had one point of failure. Now, when we built our business, we have a lot of outsourcing as well, but we never have. In fact, I've got a process now for our profit planners in place so that we have distributed work going on. And the reason that we love creating process maps is because it's continuous handoff from team to team to team. And all you do is plug in the person to work in that team, in that process. So if we've got 4 people working in a process, we can mix and match any of those. If somebody decides they don't want to work with us anymore, then we can just plug in, give them the information they need to accomplish that process. So the lesson in this is don't ever put everything in one person's basket, ever. That is a single point of failure, and it's a single point. It's a disservice to the people that you're working with too, because to tell the truth, the temptation to just go off and do it because they have everything is huge. I mean, what you've done is trained your competitors when you do that. So that's the nightmare story with outsourcing. The great thing about outsourcing is, and I'm sure most of you agree, is that when you get good people who are self-starters and take initiative, you tell them what needs to be done, they go figure out ways to do it. And we try really hard not to give people real specific instructions unless they require real specific instructions, because we like for people to come back and give us better solutions than we ever would have thought of. So that's one thing we've learned, is to be a little bit vague in your instructions sometimes. You know, Art, you can come on and talk about this too, because Art is our project manager for our software development. And Art, what are you doing? You about 3 projects right now?
Yeah, 3 or 4, depending on what's happening.
Yeah. So one of the things Art and I have talked about is that he and I both tend to have a solution in mind, right? We like to see the problem and figure out a solution that we think works. And what we have to be really careful about is not letting the programmer, who should know more about how solution provision works, to come back with a solution that's even better than what we thought of, right? We don't want to handicap people. So talk about that a little bit, Art.
Well, I guess the idea, and because I come from writing code background, I write code, right? So that's where my mind is. So backing out of that and saying, here's what we need, and go out and make it happen is, that's a challenge point. Because I can almost pseudocode the thing for them from my vision, but that may not be the best vision.
Right. Yeah. So when you're doing that, some people only want detailed specs, and you got to know who you're working with. Some people, and it doesn't matter whether it's content creation or coding that's in software or what it is. Jennifer manages a lot of folks who are working on a team for us to do outsourcing for other people. And so, she can't get bogged down in, she has to make sure the client's specs are met, but she also has to go back to the client. Jen, this week you told me something that was really interesting about the client finally coming to you after we do the automated funnels. And so the client came to Jennifer after looking at it this week and said, "Oh my God, this is working." And it takes a while to get these things in place. Talk about that experience, Jennifer. Do you remember that?
Yeah. So, one of my biggest clients wasn't sending out really any kind of nurture content at all to their list. It was the same set of emails twice a day, every day. And it was in a 5-week loop. So they'd run through a 5-week set twice a day, every day, all to the same exact product, which was a webinar registration. And I finally said to them, I said, well, okay, how's this working? We're sending people to a webinar registration and you're not getting great signups. So we're not addressing people who aren't interested in sitting on a webinar. I mean, there's some people that don't want to be on a webinar. And how are we going to talk to those people and still get them into the membership and still work with them? And so I convinced them to start doing nurture content. And so we've replaced a majority of their daily emails with the nurture emails that are daily tips. They're very the emails talk about a lot of what's going on in the world, so that they're relatable. They're very up to date. And about 3 weeks ago, they were ready to kill the nurture content because they had hired a writer to do all this. And we really got in and ran all the numbers and found 2 days ago, as we got in and dug in, that they sell a $2,500 a month program. And in the past 2 weeks, they have had 4 sales in that. And all 4 of those buyers came from that nurture content. And that's just in the past 2 weeks. So 2 weeks ago, they were telling me to kill it. And I said, hold on a second. Let's dig in and look at some numbers and look at the conversions on this and see where where the sales are coming from. And when I forced them to look at the numbers, they came back and they said, oh, okay, you were right. How much more of this can we do? And so, it's twofold. It's being open to things that are working for other people and not just automatically being like, no, I don't want to do that. That doesn't, it's different if it doesn't align with you or your business or who you are. But also it's about knowing your numbers and letting the people make the suggestions to you to help you grow, trying it and giving it some time to work. I think that's another important part about letting your outsourcers make those kind of suggestions to you.
Yeah, and the other thing about that, there is one more thing that's really important in this, is if you hire somebody and you hired them because you think that they're good at what they do, listen to them. That's the big deal. People don't like to listen. We go out and we hire people all the time, and then we tell them exactly what they're doing wrong or what we want them to do, instead of listening to what their suggestions are. That was my biggest frustration as a consultant. I would go in and help people. I mean, they were paying me a ton of money to go in and help them solve problems. And then I tell them what the solution was based on their input, what the solution obviously is. And they didn't want to follow that. So when you're hiring people, make sure you listen to what their suggestions are. If you're on the other end of that and you're a service provider, that's got to be incredibly frustrating to you as a service provider. But the key, Art?
Yeah, two things. One is knowing and using your resources. Mm-hmm. If you're hiring them, then certainly use them. Know who they are, and then go to those resources and use them. And the other one is, do you want to be right or do you want to get paid? And you're headed into that place. And I always, with all of my clients, I will give them 110% my best. But the bottom line is, I'd rather be paid than be right. So, okay, we'll do it your way. And then if we have to redo it or undo it because you were wrong, then that's fine. And you're
going to get paid.
Exactly. Or,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I'd say I always know when Art's on that borderline with me. I can tell in his conversation and the tone of his conversation when he's like, okay.
No, it always ends. I'm going to give the tell right here. The conversation, usually it's a long paragraph from Art, and it ends with, but it's your call.
Yeah.
And when he says, but it's your call.
Your call, then we're like,
go ahead, do this the wrong way, stupid. Go ahead. It's all right.
Yep.
But you could be right. It's your business. Sure. It's your call.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
But one of the things that, I struggled with outsourcing for a long time from a control standpoint.
Yeah.
And for me, where it became really important is I became so frustrated and so overwhelmed that I didn't have a choice. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard place to be in, I think, for a lot of people. But sometimes it takes that to get yourself in the mindset that you have to start moving forward. And the biggest mistake that we have ever made, I think, is as we were moving forward, knowing that we were going to have to hire people on our team, mm-hmm. we didn't do the back work of, we weren't documenting things.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think there's a big, and this is why I really struggled with wanting to hire people from an outsourcing perspective, because the first place in my mind I went to when we talked about hiring someone was, oh, now I have to train somebody. Mm-hmm. And because there was no documentation in place, the training, I was going to have to spend a lot of time training, and I was going to have to spend a lot of time getting them to understand. Whereas if I had been documenting my processes that were all in my head that I was doing every single day and just taking that little bit of extra time, it would have made the transition into bringing on team members and outsourcing better. And so Cynthia said documenting via Process Street. Cynthia, I'm telling you that once I learned how to use Process Street, I mean, we're putting so much stuff in there right now. And I kept thinking, it's going to take all this extra time and everything like that. And I started creating the documentation in Process Street as I'm working through it. So really, as I was creating, for example, our process for creating a new lead magnet into a sales page and everything like that, I went through it and just typed it up. I didn't make it look super pretty when I did it the first time around, and I just spent an extra, 15 or 20 minutes just typing it out. Then when I started cleaning it up for the team, then I went through and actually recorded some videos. So I did it in 2 chunks. I typed up all the documentation. Then when I had a little bit of extra time after the project was done, I actually went in and did some recordings that I could add in. So, it may have taken me 2 total hours to document the whole process, but I was doing it in 15-minute chunks here and 15-minute chunks there. And it really made it easier, for us to start bringing people in to start helping us do work. We would not, right now, if we got rid of all of our outsourcers, I would go work at Walmart, because I seriously can't imagine what our life would be like right now to get everything done that we need to get done in a day.
So I want to talk about the Process Street thing for a second too, because something happens when you document stuff. And Cynthia said, you forgot what you didn't know. And it's true, because I'm building the process. We've been doing the profit planners now for over a year. And we've been building those on the fly pretty much. And kind of like at the middle of the month, and we're coming up on at the middle of the month, we start thinking, okay, we got to get all this together. We got everything scheduled for another 2 years out, but we got to get everything done. So there's all these things that have to be done. And instead of using a checklist or anything or a process, I was just handing something to somebody and saying, do this, and handing somebody something to somebody else and say, do this. And then we would put it all together and get it out. And Jennifer would always say, it's time, it's time, it's time. I got to have it. And when I did it in Process Street, when I built the process in Process Street, I went down through, and this doesn't have to be Process Street. It can be in Excel, it can be in Project Manager, and it can be in Word document, whatever you want to use, but we're using Process Street. And when you go through the pieces and you actually start writing things down, you think, oh yeah, that can't happen until this happens. Mm-hmm. And then you start backing everything in and you get a complete list of all the tasks that go into these things, so that anybody can follow it. Anybody can follow it. And that's the huge benefit of being able to have outsourced documents that you can hand off to other people. Now, we also have somebody on our team who does our tutorials and creates some of our help documentation. And one of the things that I've asked her to do is document her entire process, because she has a process in place that she likes to work with, and we want to make sure that we capture that process because it works really well. And so she's doing that as she does kind of at the same time. She's a methodical thinker. And so when we identify people who are like that, ask them to build processes. Mm-hmm. That can be part of the deal. So.
Yeah. And it ends up being, when you look at the cost, especially if, there's different levels of outsourcing too, that you have to get really clear about.
Yeah.
And, we have people that we pay a high price to have as an outsourcing partner. Then we have people that, are lower level that are doers. Mm-hmm. And, you have to get really clear too about what that is. I was actually just before I got on this call, I was having a conversation with one of our clients about work that needs to get done. And, I said to her, I can do this work. Do you want to pay me $100, $120 an hour to do this work? I don't think so. I think that, you know, what you want to pay me for is to build the overall scope of the project, and then let me use people on my team to actually do the work. Because A, it's twofold. One, I mean, I can keep billing you at this rate, but I
Happy
can't
to do it.
Yeah, but the other part is that I also have to make a decision about whether or not I can even take on that kind of work. And secondly, it's not the work I really love to do. And so, you know, while, yeah, happily we'll take the money and we'll send the billing, you know, I don't want to in my mind, I don't want this nagging thing every day, you know, on my task list, because that's what it becomes. It becomes a task list. And so you have to have people in your business that are the task list doers and completers, you know, and then you've got to have the people that can help you really create that big vision of what you want to do. And so some of the people that we have that we pay the higher price for, it's on a project basis. So they come in, they help us kind of outline and create that project idea, and then they're gone until we need the next project outlined. And
So
that way, go ahead.
One of the biggest mistakes you can make, I think, is to try to do it all yourself. And I know that when you start in this business, you think, I'm the person, I can't afford to do it with anybody else. You will discover quickly, once you start using people to do things, what Jennifer was saying, things that you're not good at, you will discover quickly that you make more money faster that way, because you're using the right people. And the other thing that Jennifer said is really important is that you have to identify what you love to do and do that. This is going to sound silly, but one of the things that I absolutely love to do is type. And the reason I love to type is because I type fast, and it's kind of meditative for me, right? It's brain numbing. I can fly through something. So one of the things I used to do when I was really like at a place where I didn't know, you know, it was kind of like stymied or burnt or worn out or whatever, I would take a document, a PDF or something, and I would just sit there and just look at it and just type for 15, 20, 30 minutes. And that process would open up some kind of brainwave channel thing so that I could think about other stuff at that point. It was relaxing. My point about that, though, is that's not my best value. My best value is thinking of the big picture. I see the vision. I do the vision stuff really well. The strategery. I'm really good at the strategery. And Jennifer is really good at campaign building. Now, Jennifer's really good at campaign structure now. She knows that stuff inside out. And so she's kind of upped her game, and she doesn't have to be the person that does the building of the campaign. She can be the person that manages the campaign and look at results. Mm-hmm. And so she loves doing all of that results in analytics, because she loves being able to tweak and see a win. You know, I love for her to tell me that we've tweaked and
right.
got a win.
You don't want to have to be the one to figure out why it's not winning.
I don't want any part of that.
Yeah, so one of my secret weapons, and she's not on this call, but she is an insider member, is Luana Rodham. And Luana is an Infusionsoft person as well. And I love it. I love it that I found her, because she and I can go in and I can build out kind of the overview of what I want to happen. And I can send her an email that has hundreds of emails in it. And she can take them, proof them, get them in the campaigns, link them up, and do all that. And then all of a sudden comes back to me and says, hey, it's done. I've run tests. Now I just need to connect all the pieces, and I need you to proof it. And so being able to, but in the past, I never trusted anybody. I had never found the right person that I trusted to be able to do that kind of work. And it took me a long time I knew Luana, but I didn't know exactly what she was doing. And because of some other relationships that we have with some other people, you know, I found her in a way to do this kind of stuff. And so, you know, the other thing I would really encourage you is to use the Insiders Club group as that place, because we're all really in this together. And I love seeing people working together in the group back and forth, Amy is not on this call today. She sent me a message the other day that said, I finally took the plunge and I hired some graphics to get done on Fiverr because she thought she had to build everything. And she was just killing herself to get the graphics built, put the job out on Fiverr, paid like $50, and a couple hours later had it done. And, you know, and it really is kind of that doing it for the first time and seeing like, oh my gosh, see how fast this just happened, to really see what the value is. Now you're going to have, every one of you that outsources at some point in time is going to have a disaster. Mm-hmm. And it just is. It happens that way. And you just have to learn from it. And you have to kind of figure out where the disaster lies. We've had disasters two ways, where we've hired somebody and realized very quickly that they were completely overwhelmed with the work that needed to get done.
We had a project manager quit after I introduced her here in the Insiders Club meeting the next day. I mean, before she even hit the first document, she quit because she said, you know, your business is too big. I just can't handle it. And I thought, okay, well, boy, I did a really bad job of interviewing that person.
Right.
But anyway, that's going to happen. It just does happen. And when you find people like Luana that Jennifer just outed here on the call, you don't tell people about it. So there, because you want to keep working with those people.
Right.
You know, they're like gold. They really are like gold. So,
yep.
All right. So we're going to end at 12:45 today because we've got a webinar that we have to do right after this.
So we have two things we need to go over quickly because I want to show this quick little demo I did in ActiveCampaign.
Okay.
And I want you to quickly talk about.
Don't tell me quickly. You've been.
Well, I mean, because we could get sucked in talking about this for hours.
Okay.
The GDPR. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll start with the GDPR. So the GDPR is the something data regulations. It's what does the G stand for?
I don't know. Go keep talking. I'll look it up.
So anyway, it is the EU on May 25th is implementing and codifying something they passed in 2016. And it is new data privacy requirements. And it's pretty amazing that they're getting so stringent with this. And so, you know, everybody I know at our level is freaking out about GDPR because you got to be compliant with GDPR if you're going to sell in the EU. That's UK plus Scandinavian countries. And you know, our growth is in the UK right now, the UK and Australia. That's our big growth areas. And so we have to be compliant as well. Now, what does that mean? So I went to Chip and Alan Cutts, Chip Cooper and Alan Cutts, thank you, Global Data Privacy Regulations, thank you. A good thing we know a practical privacy coach, there you go. So I went to Chip Cooper and Alan Cutts and said, what does this mean for us and do we need to do a webinar on this? They're our FTC Guardian guys. And it's really broken down into two categories. It's called processors and controllers. You're a processor of data if you are a company like Infusionsoft or Visa or Aweber or people who actually hold the data in their systems. A controller is somebody like us. We control the data. We accumulate data by getting people in. So there are a lot of regulations for controllers, and the processors have a ton more though. They got to do all kinds of stuff and make sure that the data is available for people to be able to change. There's all these, I'm going to put together a document that has all of these links for you. And there's one blog post I found that was a simplified 12 steps basically of the GDPR. And it was really good because it made me understand it. It took the legalese and then turned it into English, which was very helpful. But anyway, I'm going to put this together for you, put it in the Insiders Club so you guys can take a look at it. But we're also doing a webinar 2 weeks, I think, with Chip and Alan. And then while their webinar is going to be about mostly FTC Guardian material, they are going to touch on and talk about GDPR and about how we shouldn't freak out too much because most of us are really doing a lot of this already. We have to be able to give people access to their data and make sure that we tell them up front that how we're using the data. So that's going to be something to watch and something to implement, to keep in mind. So that's it. I just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for everybody to understand. And, for me, hearing from Chip that is like, don't freak out, because I was in like the throes of kind of a meltdown of, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? How are we physically going to do it? How are we going to get the workload done? How are we going to get it done by the date? Yep. And it's lucky.
I feel sorry for Infusionsoft. They got to get it all done.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yep. So go ahead.
Good. No. What did you want to do next?
So I just wanted to show, I'd had a couple of questions from people that have responded to me in the help desk. And essentially, everybody wants to know my trick for delivering free content to people who are already subscribed on our list, and how I get them into the funnels, and because they're not opting in for anything, and how does that process work?
And we don't want them to opt in.
Right, yeah, because I don't want them opting in. And I was struggling because I didn't want to show this inside Infusionsoft because there's so few people here with Infusionsoft. So I quickly taught myself how to use ActiveCampaign this morning so that I could kind of show you like just a little bit of an overview of the process in ActiveCampaign. And I was hoping that Jean Lanou was going to be on this call, but she's not. So if any of you use ActiveCampaign and I'm saying the wrong stuff, definitely let me know, because like I said, I just learned how to do this morning. I'm going to share my screen. All right, everybody should be seeing my calendar. Okay, so the whole idea is that you want to be able to deliver free content that you're generating for lead gen, and you want to be able to use this content to nurture your list, make sure that they're really getting valuable content from you that you've already built that you're using as a lead magnet. And so it's kind of killing two birds with one stone. It's the idea, sorry, this is taking a minute here. It's the idea of continually adding value to people who are currently on your list, giving them the good stuff too, not just new people on your list. And so I do this. I have campaigns that do this every day. You guys don't get them because you shouldn't be getting them, because you have access to them in the Insiders Club. But I have an email series that goes out every 2 or 3 days that sends this content. So you can see I just typed a quick little email. I've got this great new free stuff and click to get you started, right? But so this is where everybody was stuck. And that was, how do you get them to click, get them to the actual thank you page to buy, and still deliver the content to them? So in my email, this is my little email I built in ActiveCampaign. And when I click on the button, it gives me all the formatting here for the button. And it asks me where I want to send people to when they click the link. So my link that I've put in right here is my actual thank you page. And this is important because this thank you page, this is what anybody that actually clicked the opt-in button from Facebook, let's just say. Sorry, I should have had this pulled up before we got on the Zoom call here. And the reason this thank you page is important is because I have thank you, your free templates are headed to your inbox. This gives the upsell opportunity. But so everybody was stuck understanding how to deliver that content. So in ActiveCampaign, if you're using ActiveCampaign or something similar, typically when someone opts in, you've already got some kind of functionality that sends the free email, or the email with the free copy or the link to the download, whatever you're using here. And so what I did here was, I'm just assuming that this is going to be my email to send my delivery, and then it's going to drop people into the funnel. But this is where the connection happens. In ActiveCampaign, I did add a new trigger, And my trigger was that they clicked on a link in an email. And so here is my email. So when somebody clicks on the link in my send free report email, I haven't published this yet, so the link isn't going to show. Oh, there it is. So when they click on that link here, I'm going to add the start. Let it do its thing. And there we go. So now if any contact has clicked on that link from that email specifically, it's going to start this flow. And the reason I wanted to show this to you was because if you're using ActiveCampaign and you're using it right now so that you've got a lead gen where somebody submits a link or submits a form and it drops them into a campaign like this, you can just add a new trigger. You don't have to create a new campaign or a new email sequence. And so I demoed this morning for somebody else, and she said, oh my gosh, it was the button that had me so hung up. I couldn't figure out how to move people from the button click to the thank you page while still delivering the free content. So, excuse me. So this is how I do it. It's really that simple. I know in ActiveCampaign and in some of the other CRMs, you can also use tags. I hadn't even figured that part out yet in ActiveCampaign. So I just wanted to show this quickly because I'd had so many questions about it in the help desk.
And that's really working for us
Yes.
because this builds relationships. It adds value. It keeps people engaged. We hear from people all the time that we don't know that maybe aren't in this call or that we don't know personally. We hear from them all the time in the help desk that say, thanks for providing so much great content. And I'm always thinking, I wonder what we gave them. I wonder what they really liked. And so we can go back into their account and look at them because they're using their email address to see what they're getting.
And so I'm not sharing the screen anymore, right?
Nope.
Okay. And so that was really it. And, if you have any additional questions, post them in the Facebook group because we know we've got some really good ActiveCampaign users that are in there as well. But what I was trying to get away from, or I was trying to help everybody understand, is this is a great way to reuse content to your existing list that you're saving right now to try to get new people on your list. Because, the new people, that's great. You want to have those people coming in too, but you still want to be nurturing and communicating with your current list with free content. This for us is what has changed our business. And this is the whole part of this evergreen funnels that we're setting up. I mean, I have, right before we got on this call this morning, I'd had like 6 or 7 sales coming from sending these emails out with this free content. And so
I want to say something too about this because we're so comfortable doing this now and that it's working so well. I took a trip last week to New York, took Charleston to the opera, which you guys following me on Facebook, you saw all those pictures from New York. And so we were gone 4 or 5 days total. For the first time ever in my life as a online business person, I didn't take my computer at all. And so Jennifer and I talked a couple of times by phone and a couple of times text messages. And I jumped in on one of Art's conversations with the developers, but that was it. That's all I did. We really had a great time up there. And it was because of this automated stuff. We did 10K in sales while I was gone. And that's all automation. So, this stuff really, really works. And you guys are insiders. You're going to see it all. You're going to see everything. You are seeing it all. You're seeing everything that we do. And I really encourage you to watch we're going to do a webinar for everybody so you can get in on it as well. But you have already access to, 2/3 of the stuff that we're doing these days for this automated funnels. It is absolutely the way to go. So.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the mindset, it was a huge mindset shift. And this is where, once we made the mindset shift, everything started kind of coming together. And that shift was assuming that everybody had seen all of our stuff and didn't want to see it again. Because, you know, if you look at your own inbox and you see how much stuff you get, just because we were sending this content out once before, you know, the assumption was we can't ever use it again. And what
we're getting right now, we're getting about 1,500 new people a month. So, you know, those people come in not knowing us at all. And so we have an entire process in place now for getting those people to know us.
Yep. And this is a great way to do it, is with free content. And it's such a gentle way to sell that it's not, I haven't sent an email since Monday. I don't even know when the last time I actually sent a broadcast email out.
Well, we won a contest that ended on Saturday. I think that was it.
Maybe, yeah. But I don't have to, because I have this content just kind of swirling around and sending stuff out and making sales. And so, you know, this process for us, this is what the game changer has been. And it was, I'll tell you before we hang up, the way that I did this and the way I got my mind wrapped around this was I did an inventory of all the content that we had, stuff that could be used, and, you know, what was valuable, what we'd had. And I started with the things that had the most, we had the most interaction with prior. And I just started sending that out and doing it on little tests to see what happened. And so, yeah, we just inventoried everything. And the goal for us was we wanted to be able to have content that was flowing all the time. And I didn't want to have to be creating new content every 2 days to be able to do that. And so that inventory that we did was the first thing. Now we are creating new content, but that content is blog posts.
And whenever we create something, the first thing we say is, where does this fit in the funnels? What's it leading to?
So I just wanted to show that real quick, because again, I had so many questions in the help desk it's funny, people just respond and they say, I went through the process of how you did this and I clicked on everything and I want to know how you actually did it. And so I was hoping that would be helpful for some folks.
And that's the kind of thing we'll tell insiders, not anybody else, but you know, so. All right. So we're going to wrap this up, and I got to get over to prepare for this next webinar that we're doing on the funnel pieces. We're going to do a webinar for our own community. And somebody just asked me privately if you already have access to the Evergreen Cash Funnel system. The Evergreen Cash Funnel system is basically 4 or 5 parts, if I remember correctly. And you do have like the first 3 parts already in your insiders group, the first 3 parts of the course. The new one you do not, and you don't have access to the live group or the live calls that start on April the 26th. Jennifer, I think we're going to do something special for the Insiders Club to make sure that we get them an opportunity to get the rest of that stuff. You will have to pay for it, but it's not going to be the
you guys will have it'll be a prorated kind of thing, because we've used some of the training that we've already created and that you're already getting. And no, Teresa, this is not a webinar you should already know about, because I just scheduled it yesterday, so I haven't even mailed on it yet. So I will get I'll get everything done. Probably mailed out over the weekend. We actually have switched to GoToWebinar, and this will be
I got a heck of a deal, speaking of that. So I ended up buying a grandfathered GoToWebinar account that somebody was giving up. So I got it for $78 a month and 1,000 seats.
So this will be our first GoToWebinar meeting. So I, kind of got to learn how to set everything up. So I got to do that here.
So here's the thing with this. If you get on a webinar with us and you are, that you see me doing, I've done one with Matt, done with Kathy Demers, and you're in the Insiders Club, don't buy from that webinar. Do not buy from that webinar, because we're going to help, well, unless you want to give us money. But if you, because we're going to have something special for you guys. Okay. All right. Okay.
Perfect. Well, we'll see you guys next week.
Adios.
Bye, y'all.